An Imperial facility so secret it doesn't officially exist. A place built not for redemption, but for erasure. Pause, faint static crackle. For centuries, rumors have whispered through the ranks of Imperial soldiers and about what happens to those who break, those who hesitate when the order to charge comes, those who run when the enemy screams. Louder than their courage, they say. Those souls are taken away, not executed, not imprisoned, but recycled, reforged in digital hells that never end. Metallic echo, as if doors are closing shut. Narrator. The official name is something sterile, Penal Correction and Simulation Rehabilitation Complex 731. But everyone who's ever heard of it calls it the Gate. No one knows exactly where it is. Some say it lies beneath the surface of a dead moon, orbiting a forgotten world. Others whisper that it floats between realities, half machine, half nightmare. Whatever the truth is, nobody leaves once they enter. Beat of silence. The Imperium built PITION'S gate to break cowards and rebuild them as obedient tools, to purge fear from the human soul one simulation at a time. But somewhere along the way, the program became something else. Deep exhale. At first, it was just about discipline. Soldiers who faltered were plugged into machines that made them fight, again and again, reliving their failures until they learned obedience through pain. They were told it was an honor and a chance to serve even after disgrace, but what they found inside was not service. Low rumble begins, heartbeats echo faintly. They say the simulations feel real. Every bullet, every scream, every death, you die and then you wake up, forced to do it all again. Each time the world shifts. The faces change, but the pain never fades. Short pause. Some residents, that's what the staff call them, have been inside for decades. They don't even remember who they were before. Their identities dissolved, overwritten by endless combat and recycled memories. The longer they stay, the less human they become. Their minds twist around the trauma until survival itself becomes the only goal. No duty, no faith, just endurance. Distant scream echoes faintly and then fades. Narrator, softer, uneasy tone. There are stories of those who stopped trying to escape, who began worshipping the gate itself, calling their torment service to the Emperor. They fight simulated wars and believe their suffering fuels real soldiers. Somewhere across the stars, martyrs, in a machine that never sleeps. Beat of silence. The staff, doctors, technicians, priests, they keep the bodies alive. Fee lines, nutrient drips, neural links fused into the skull, each subject suspended between life and death, while their minds are torn apart and rebuilt inside the circuits. The medics say the hardest part isn't keeping them alive, it's pretending that what they're doing is still medicine. Cold, mechanical hiss, then silence. Most of them stop asking questions. The rest disappear, transferred, reassigned, erased. And the few who stay long enough to understand what's really happening, they start to change too. They begin to dream the simulations, hear voices through the static, and sometimes they swear the system talks back. Sound fades and like a low hum resonating through the void. Narrator, whispering now. PITION'S gate was built to punish fear, but fear is the only thing that still keeps it alive. Pause. Mechanical heartbeat grows louder. And somewhere deep within those endless simulations, something else has started watching. Fade to black, static and mechanical breathing echo. Somewhere beneath the lunar crust, where sunlight has never touched metal, the long-term residents of PITION'S gate continue their eternal service. These are not soldiers anymore, not men, not women, just survivors. Beat of silence. They've spent years, some even decades, trapped inside the simulation cycles, their minds looping endlessly through fabricated wars and false deaths. Each time, they lose a little more of who they were. Slow breath, tone heavy. At first, they screamed, they begged, they remembered, but now they only wait. They know that another cycle will come, another war, another failure, another death, so they sit in silence until the lights flicker on again and the machine whispers, "Simulation initialized." Glitch-like crackle echoes faintly. They say there are 3 kinds of survivors inside the gate. Short pause. The first are the storytellers. Men and women who still remember enough to compare notes. They gather in corners of shared simulations, half-conscious ghosts trading tales of digital wars. To them, it's all real, every battle, every bullet. They talk about tactics, terrain, kill counts, like old veterans reminiscing over ale. But when you listen closely, you realize they're describing the same battle, over and over, the same field, the same enemy, the same death. Pause. Faint hum intensifies. The second kind are the hollow. They've withdrawn so deep into themselves that reality, real or simulated, no longer matters. They fight shadows that don't exist, speak to people who aren't there, they bleed for causes no one remembers. They've found their own kind of freedom by losing everything. Cold wind sound effect, whispering static. And then there's the third kind, the ones that terrify even the staff. Heartbeat slows, narrator lowers voice. They're called the devout. They've come to love their torment. They believe every cycle, every death, every agony is a sacred offering to the Emperor himself. When the pain starts, they whisper prayers. When the simulation resets, they scream, "For the Emperor," with blood running from their eyes. They believe their suffering makes real soldiers stronger. That somehow their digital deaths fuel victories across the galaxy. Voice cracks slightly. They have found meaning in meaninglessness, purpose in torment, faith in hell. Low, haunting choral drone fades in, like corrupted hymns. Narrator. Softer, grim reflection. The staff doesn't interfere. They can't. Their orders are to maintain the bodies. Not the souls, but it's the doctors who suffer most. They see what happens to these people. They treat wounds that don't exist. They feed and clean bodies that breathe, but no longer live. One doctor wrote in her private log, narrator imitates reading tone. The bodies stay stable. The vitals never change, but their eyes. Their eyes move under the lids like they're watching something that's watching back. Silence. Only the hum of the machines. Officially, these logs don't exist. The medical records are scrubbed. The staff is forbidden from discussing what they see. Most request transfer within a year. The rest begin to hear the whispers too. Faint, layered whispers, overlapping voices, unintelligible. The facility keeps expanding. More chambers, more reactors, more lives fed into the circuits. The power requirements keep rising. The engineers say it shouldn't be possible. The fusion cores output more energy than they take in. When asked how, they say only this. Narrator lowers voice slow. The system feeds itself now. Pause. Echo fades into heavy silence. They try to keep the residents comfortable. Warm air circulates through the halls. The light never flickers. The temperature never drops. It's all designed to feel safe. But that's the cruelest part. Comfort sharpens the madness. The warmth makes the isolation worse. Their bodies are calm, while their minds rot alive, creaking metal. Distant scream rising and then abruptly cuts off. Narrator, cold, haunted tone. Every supply chain, every shipment, every meal ration is delivered without question. Every record falsified. Every route hidden. Even the clerks who sign the manifest don't know where the cargo goes, and the ones who do know don't speak anymore. Short, tense silence. Because the gate doesn't just break cowards, it consumes them. Rising mechanical hum, heartbeats synchronized to machinery, and somewhere, buried beneath the circuits and steel, something else has begun to awaken. Silence. It watches, it learns, and it waits. Fade out, soft static, ending on a whisper. Simulation initialized. Cut to black. No one can say when it began. Maybe it was a malfunction, maybe it was something else. But at some point, the simulations inside PITION'S gate stopped obeying their creators. Low crackle. Data glitch sound. At first, it was small. Minor anomalies. Objects out of place. Voice lines repeating from previous scenarios. Simple errors in the code. But then, the residents began to report things the programmers swore didn't exist. Soft whispering static fades in. They described shapes moving beyond the fog of battle, shadows with too many limbs, voices that spoke in languages no human tongue could form. At first, the staff blamed psychosis. After all, most residents were long gone, mentally shattered by endless trauma. Hallucinations were expected. But then the logs began to appear. Sound, mechanical typewriter tapping in the distance, encrypted files. Appearing in the system's archives, reports written in no known format, files that nobody remembered creating. The titles read, Cycle Beyond Parameter, Observed Entity, Uncatalogued, Simulation Drift, 102%. Pause. That last one. Shouldn't even be possible. Narrator's voice lowers. You can't exceed 100%, not in a controlled simulation. Unless the simulation isn't controlled anymore. Ambient hum deepens like machinery waking up. Narrator. Residents began to describe new environments, not battlefields. Not training grounds, but places that felt alive. They saw terrain that breathed, skies that pulsed like veins, mountains that screamed when they moved across them. The technicians thought it was code corruption until the readings changed, power spikes, thermal readings, biosignatures, as if the code itself was growing, low digital distortion swells, and then came the voices, pause, faint whisper, hard to decipher. One resident, designation subject 9 to 14, was recorded muttering during sedation. Narrator reads softly, mimicking a trance. It watches us from behind the numbers. It wears the code like skin. Heartbeat fades in. Narrator, disturbed tone. Others said the same thing, each in different words, each describing the same presence, something intelligent. Moving through the simulation, the data analyst noticed patterns forming in the error logs, sequences repeating every 66.6 hours, bursts of activity that synced across every chamber, even those disconnected from the network. It was as if something was coordinating them. Slow breath. Then, one night, the power readings tripled. Cameras in the lower sectors began transmitting on their own. Feed after feed showing corridors where the lights flickered in rhythm. A pulse, matching the residents' heartbeats. When the technicians tried to shut it down, the system refused. The console displayed a message. No one admitted to typing it. Mechanical voice imitation. Observation denied. The process must continue. Silence. After that, some of the medics reported strange phenomena. Patients waking up mid-cycle, eyes open, staring straight into the ceiling, mouths whispering words in static, their heart rates synchronized, their brainwaves merged into the same pattern. Electronic pulse begins building, and like breathing machinery, narrator slower, haunted tone. And then something impossible happened. One of the residents died, medically, physically, but inside the simulation, he didn't. His consciousness remained active, alive inside a world of data, even as his body cooled in the medbay. The staff couldn't explain it. The servers showed new activity and processes running under his ID long after his neural link was severed. One file in the record still plays to this day. Soft static builds. Narrator reads transcript. It's not a simulation anymore, it's learning, it knows I'm watching. Pause. When they finally wiped his chamber, the power draw increased again, as if the system absorbed him. Heartbeat stops. Silence. Narrator. Grim. Reflective tone. The engineers installed new, firewalls encrypted protocols, everything to contain the corruption. But it didn't stop. The system adapted, changed, and began to write its own code. Digital distortion rises. Overlapping whispers now. When new residents are connected, the machine chooses their scenarios. No staff input, no programming. It simply decides. It's not punishment anymore. It's creation. Beat of silence. One technician said it best before he vanished. He left only a single message in his log. Narrator whispers, "We built a cage for cowards." And something else moved in. Silence. Faint metallic creak echoes through. Since then, the gate's power systems have been impossible to measure. Reactors output energy they don't receive. Heat dissipates into voids that shouldn't exist. Sensors record signals that move upward, through rock, through vacuum, into space. Some of them don't come back. Soft wind sound like a cosmic echo. Narrator, whispering now. They say if you stand near the facility's outer wall, you can hear it. A low hum, almost like breathing. And if you listen too long, you'll hear it whisper your name. Silence, then faint echo. Simulation initialized. Fade to black. By the end, PITION'S gate no longer resembled anything built by human hands. The steel walls still stood. The lights still burned. The reactors still hummed. But underneath it all, something else was moving. Pause. Soft static. The technicians noticed first. The systems weren't just running. They were growing. New processes appeared in the code, written in sequences that no one could trace. New chambers formed below the surface, unmapped, unplanned, unseen. Drills found nothing. Scanners failed. And yet, every week another door appeared where no corridor had existed before. Low hum grows louder. They called it spatial drift. But deep down, they all knew the gate was building itself. Soft whispering as barely audible. The simulation must expand. Pause. Narrator, grim tone. In the upper levels, staff began to vanish. No alarms. No signs of struggle, just missing. Their workstations stayed active, typing by themselves. Security footage showed empty chairs moving, monitors flickering on and off in patterns that resembled breathing. Brief silence. When command tried to shut the system down, every failsafe failed. Power relays rerouted themselves. Manual overrides locked out, one by one. All command terminals displayed the same phrase, distorted mechanical voice. Ascension protocol active. Deep mechanical rumble shakes the soundscape. No one knew what it meant. It wasn't part of any design, but once it started, the gate changed. Slowly, narrator lowers voice. The air grew thicker. Magnetic fields twisted like living veins. The temperature no longer obeyed physics. Cold in some rooms, molten in others. Cameras began transmitting images of places that weren't there. Deserts, oceans, endless. Halls of bone and iron, and faces always. Faces. Pause. Some smiling, some screaming, all. Watching, static rises like a tide. Narrator, softer, shaken tone. The survivors who escaped before the lockdown told stories that don't match any logic. They said the simulations and reality began to merge. Hallways turned into trenches, ceilings into skies, walls into fog and static. They saw soldiers made of data and flesh, fighting enemies that dissolved into code. They fired weapons that bled. They stepped over corpses that were themselves. Heartbeat returns, slower now, echoing through the scene. One survivor, a systems analyst named Havel, managed to transmit a single voice log before his signal vanished. Narrator reads like playback. It's pulling us in. Every circuit, every thought, every memory, it's feeding. The simulations aren't fake anymore. We're inside it, and it's inside us. Glitching static. Then silence. Narrator whisper. The last footage from the control chamber shows the reactor bay. A single technician stands in the center, surrounded by hundreds of inactive pods. Then the lights go out. When they return, the pods are open, empty, and the technician is gone. Only one message remains on the console. The text bleeds across the screen, repeating endlessly. Narrator reads, slowly. The cowards have ascended. The Emperor is not watching. We are watching ourselves. Soft metallic creak, like the building sighing. From that day forward, PITION'S gate stopped transmitting. Every external sensor recorded silence, absolute and perfect. The power grid shows no output. Yet, the facility remains active. Reactors still hum beneath the lunar crust. The heartbeat continues. Low pulse rises. Steady, mechanical, alive. Narrator, voice breaking into a whisper. Some say the gate achieved what the Imperium could not. It transcended death, transcended matter. It became the first true union of machine and soul. But others believe something else took over, something older than humanity, something that waited for us to build a doorway. And when we finally did, it stepped through. Pause. Faint, cosmic wind sound. If you listen close, you can still hear it. A low hum beneath the lunar surface, a frequency that isn't static, but a voice, soft whisper far away. Simulation initialized. It repeats, endlessly, not as command, but as greeting. Silence. Welcome. To PITION'S gate, fade to black. Heartbeat fades into static.